Hello and welcome to Human Resources Management. Today we're going to talk about the Personal Marketing Folio. This is Dr. Casper, and let's get started. Well, we seem to have trouble going to the first slide. Let's see what the problem is. There we go. So what is a Personal Marketing Folio? Well, it's a brief account of one's professional or work experience, their qualification, and their skills. It's usually limited to 1 page, and for exceptions, 2 pages, usually for people who have more than 10 years experience. For each 10 years of experience, a possible second page could be added, kind of the rule of thumb. Now, the Personal Marketing Folio is the very first document which an employer or hiring manager or recruiter uses to screen applicants for an interview. We're going to call personal marketing folios, but they are also known as resumes and curricula vitae as well, although CVs are a little different. So, what is a PMF, a Personal Marketing Folio? It highlights your prior jobs, but it is not a job description. And I think this is where most people get a little bit askew with respect to what a resume or a personal marketing folio is. The heart of a PMF is the bullets, and these bullets indicate your accomplishments, your successes, exploits, your deeds of wonder, your feats of excellence, and any attainments that you may have had. It's basically telling the recruiter not what you did, but how well you did it. And that's what they're looking for in a resume. And as much as possible, these bullets should be quantified. Instead of saying can leap buildings in a single bound, you might say, in third quarter of last year, I leapt a 35-story building in a single bound, and it took 10 seconds. Now, what is, again, the purpose, the overall purpose of the PMF? Well, the purpose of the Personal Marketing Folio is to sell you. Success is measured by receiving an interview, not a job, but the interview. The resume, the PMF, is designed to get you an interview. And basically, recruiters, the studies have been done, they grant approximately 1 interview for every 200 resumes. PMFs or resumes are quickly read and scanned in 20 to 60 seconds, sometimes if you're lucky. However, if there's a large stack of resumes, they may be scanned in less than 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds. And if they're really bad and don't submit to particular formats, they may not even be looked at all. The top half of the resume makes or breaks you. I was going to say on the resume quickly read or scanned, hopefully they will be looked at by a recruiter first or a hiring manager. Oftentimes an assistant or a secretary perhaps will take a look at the resume, and if they don't see what they may be looking for, told to look for in the first few words, they're going to move on. If the top half is good, then the recruiting manager will move on to the bullets. Not the top half, but if your address and your name look good, it looks like you basically got what they're looking for, they're not going to read the paragraphs or the other information. They're going straight for your bullets. So the bullets in the resume, what's going to draw their eyes, and it's really your only chance to knock their socks off, as I like to say. So the bullets, therefore, are the heart and soul of a good PMF. If those aren't diligently diligently created and targeted at the company, most likely you're not going to get a resume-based interview or an interview based on your resume. Obviously, there are exceptions, but what we want is for the graduates of this class to have the absolute best PMF, the absolute best resumes that they can create. Plus, from the other side, when you are recruiters or hiring managers, want you to be able to read a resume for what it is and determine if the person has the right skills and abilities, irrespective of how they write their PMF. So we've been talking about the target audience of the PMF. It's obviously the recruiter, and the goal, the end game, is an interview. So what does this mean? You've created in your mind a target audience. The target isn't sitting there thinking about what your job descriptions are or what your accomplishments are. It is thinking about the company, what they might need or desire from a new employee, and focus on those employers' needs and not yours. Look in the job requisition, talk to people perhaps, look up the company. What are they trying to do? What does the employer want? If there's a list of things that they are looking for in the job description, in the job posting, well, sure, grab that information, and if you have experience or accomplishments in those areas, be sure to list them, especially since most of the companies that will receive your PMF will send it through some sort of scanner, a resume scanner, that will look for the keywords that they have listed in their job posting. So what special abilities would a candidate need to have to get the job? What makes you a great candidate versus a good candidate? A lot of good candidates may be great candidates, but good candidates will merely list their job description. What we want you to do is list, yeah, I was a recruiter. Yes, I had a great internship at XYZ company, but this is where I was really good, and the extra stuff, or even the job descriptions, the area of the job that I did very well. So, put yourself on the other side of the table. If you were a purchaser of the product, if you were the targeted market, what will you be looking for in a resume, in a person? Pretend you have 200 of those in front of you, and you're going to scan them very quickly. How do the best ones look, and how are you going to discern which ones to interview? Now, is there such thing as a correct PMF? Well, yes and no. It kind of depends. There are some bad things that are put on a PMF that don't belong, that will make it a bad resume. Some of these things are grammar, spelling errors. For example, a better resume has no spelling errors, nor does it have spelling errors, nor does it have any grammatical problems. So there is no supreme mold, there is no formula, there's no baseline, including the one that we talk about, that is the perfect resume. Again, they're all job focused, and they're all based on you as an individual. There's only so much that if there's somebody who's a 6'5", 300-pound, strong as an ox football player, he can write a resume. And if there's somebody who is 5'6", 120 pounds wet, and they're both going for the same linebacker job, it doesn't matter how wonderfully written the PMF is for the smaller player. The larger player will get the position. So all resumes are subject to the unknown desires of the hiring manager, plus the underlying skills of the candidate. However, if you are equal to or in the middle of the pack or on average to the other candidates, This is how you can write your PMF to focus on the job and to have a better chance of getting a resume. There are some resumes that you might get approved by a career management center or online. Usually these resumes meet some type of minimal standards. So if you've had a resume that's been looked at and approved by a teacher or possibly a career management center, it may or may not be the best that it can be. Again, they will roll through a lot of resumes. They may or may not have picked up on some of these key attributes and strengths that you have. And that's, I think, one of the strengths of this class. We have a longer period of time in which to talk about personal marketing folio, as well as go over it in class, look at some that are better than others, and help you along with respect to making you a better candidate through improving your PMF. So, as I've said before, it's not just an explanation of your job criteria. You really want to try to go in and knock their socks off. And as I have said before, if you don't have very many accomplishments or a high GPA or some of these other issues or some of these other accolades, you should be able to still go in and find things that you've done well in your previous jobs or experiences. However, building upon the linebacker story that I told a minute ago, the smaller guy, if he lifted a lot of weights and played a lot of football and practice, maybe there's some way that he can improve his chances, maybe not at a linebacker job, but some other position. So I think another point to improving your PMF is to actually do things that improve you as a person. Do things in your internships. Get an internship. But do things that show that you're a great employee. Never be tardy. Go to work every day. Look for opportunities to do special projects. There are many things that you can do. Volunteer in an organization. And volunteer so often that perhaps you get a leadership role in that organization. If your GPA is above 3.0, you should, I get this question a lot. If your GPA is above 3.0, yeah, you should put it on the resume. If it's below 3.0, well, then you have a choice to make. So if it's below 3.0 and you don't list it, hiring managers are going to assume that it's below 3.0. And what assumption do you want them to make? So it's your decision as to whether to put the overall college GPA on there, perhaps just the GPA of your major. A lot of companies have a minimal cutoff point for GPAs. Maybe most importantly is to improve and increase your GPA so that it does make you a more marketable candidate. So constructing, how do you go about constructing, and I use the word constructing, not writing or creating, but constructing your personal marketing folio? Well, let's start kind of backwards. Take a sheet of paper. Brainstorm your accomplishments. Don't start with any formatting. Don't have any formatting in line. You're going to go through, and you might segregate them into different jobs, education, or whatever, but maybe the easiest and the best way to do this is just to brainstorm ideas that you consider things that you have done well in your job, maybe in your schooling. So to repeat a little bit, your resume is not just a history of your past, nor is it some personal statement about your goodness. Some of the content may include job history, of course, but don't get confused. It's not just about that. Write your resume from the perspective of it being a personal ad about your accomplishments. If you do that, the final product will be much better. The draft will take a while. As a matter of fact, I usually tell people who come to me and say, well, I can't figure out my resume, help me. It takes about 40 hours to get a good first draft of a resume. And then, of course, for the rest of your life, you can build upon that. But if you've taken 40 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour, you really haven't done the time or put in the effort that it's going to take to make your PMF stand out amongst your competition. Now, I've also found that writing your personal marketing folio when you're in a good mood is important. Sitting down begrudgingly and in a time period when you don't want to do it, just to punch your ticket that it's been done, is not necessarily the best time to do it. However, of course, it needs to be done. So generate some enthusiasm about it. Get excited. It will show on your resume. So we talked about building it backwards. Write your achievements first, and don't just stop with 2 achievements. When you write achievements, when you brainstorm, don't try to wordsmith them or write them correctly. Just capture the ideas as you go along. You can come back later, lasso them, put them into order, combine, contrast, and that type of activity is next. But brainstorming is typically about putting all of the ideas down on a sheet of paper. Don't stop your brain from functioning and working on these ideas. As a matter of fact, although you'll be listing maybe just 3 of your brainstormed activities, accomplishments per job, you may have 6 or 7. You should keep those in your back pocket to talk about during your resume so that you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. When they ask you a question in the interview, it's kind of cheesy to just repeat what's on the resume. You should have other ideas and examples, and brainstorming for additional achievements is a way to get that. After you finish with the achievements, lassoing them and kind of putting them in order by job description, then you might list the jobs out. Start writing a job description, maybe bullet point, or brainstorm what you did during that job. And this will be kind of a paragraph, 2 or 3 sentences after your job title, so that they do have a perspective of what you did in that job. Finally, and this is education as well, but finally you'll put it into a nice, neat format, which is important, but it's kind of the last step, whereas most people make it the first step. So a little bit more on achievements, powerful but subtle statements. You don't want to look like you're bragging too much, but it is something that shows your accomplishments. Spend too much time on this step. List many more items than you could possibly use. After you brainstorm potential items, start writing them down, rank them in order and by impact. Try to make them quantifiable. Maybe look at them in terms of par. You identified a problem, you did some action, and that was the result. And you can put your bullet points in terms of that. It works out very well and helps you think through your problem. I noticed that the company had no personal handbook. So I pulled one down from the SHRM website, created one, got approval from my management, and on my own created this personal handbook. We distributed it to the population. It was well liked. The lawyers, the managers are very appreciative of it, and it has been suggested that it has decreased the amount of lawsuits and terminations based on ignorance of the employee by 20%. Again, quantifying the achievement. So when you brainstorm achievements, maybe these questions will help you out. What projects have you done that make you proud? How have you benefited the organization? What does the boss, what does the boss say? How have you benefited her? How about the bottom line? How about your coworkers? Maybe your clients. Maybe you were the best at handling disturbed clients. Have you ever received any awards for your performance? Employee of the month, etc. What has your supervisor in a performance evaluation said about any portion of your performance? Maybe most of them were bad, very bad, very bad, very bad. But on one of them, communication skills, you got I won. Excellent. Well, you could focus on that. In my last performance review, my supervisor rated me as excellent in communications. Now, don't forget to look at the skills needed for the job, and if you demonstrate any of those skills needed for the particular job, and focus the resume on that. So you've got maybe a standard resume that you might hand out at job fairs. But if you're going for a specific job that's posted, you'll want to look at their job requirements and focus your resume with the right words on what they are looking for. And finally, have you ever knocked somebody's socks off? The boss, the CSO, your the CEO, your coworker, anybody, a professor with a project or anything that you've done. What do achievements look like that are quantified? You can take a look at this list: saved some amount of money in annual benefits cost, increased profits, and maybe at the time that you're doing this, the dollar amount wasn't quantified. But that doesn't mean you can't go back and in your mind generate how much money, time, manpower was saved. If you saved 10 hours in overtime, that can be calculated fairly easily. Time and a half, overtime, make the numbers, and therefore you saved $10,000 in overtime costs by making the payroll process more efficient. Okay, so after you have your achievements kind of worked out and your job titles, you should look at writing a 2 or 3 sentence summary describing the company first. So if I worked at ABCD Plumbing, most people don't know what that is. It's a mid-sized company based in New Jersey who services something like that. Very short, very succinct. But it does talk about the company. If you work for Citibank, number one financial services company in the world, generated $18 bazillion in profit in the first quarter. Something like that. You can get very quantifiable, throw some numbers in there. Then after the company, you'll list your job description: HR generalist, HR intern, and then list a 3 or 4 sentence summary paragraph, not bullets, but a summary paragraph that describes what you did on a day-to-day basis. Usually, resumes stop at that point. But again, this is where you put the bullets in, and those bullets describe your achievements. Okay, education. Get a lot of questions on this. Be sure to write the correct term for your degree. Be surprised how many resumes cross my desk: BS, BA, and HR. You need to know if it's a Bachelor of Science or Bachelor's of Arts. Get it from online source or your diploma. Make sure that is extremely correct. Talks about GPA. List any honors that you may have received. Dean's list. Any scholarships, any awards, any attaboys, best presentation in the class sort of thing. Now, you only need to list classes where you've received degrees unless you have a degree unfinished at a particular place. So if you finished your degree, associate's degree, and you're finishing your bachelor's degree, you may just want to list Rowan University graduating this semester without having listed the classes or the associate's degree. Others will say if you got a degree from an undergraduate institute and associates, that you should always list that. Most people, however, will suggest that if you just took some general elective courses at a junior college or a community college, and now you're at Rowan University, that you do not separate out those classes, because in the end you will be receiving your degree, which is what's important from Rowan University. And the GPA that you have listed at Rowan will include the numbers that you received from the junior college or community college. You should list your degree, first on education. If you're a college student looking for a job, that's expected, that's standard. Perhaps if you've been in the workforce for 20 years in your field and are just coming back to get an MBA, then you would list your experience first, and at the end follow it with your education. Now, when you finish your first job, 3 or 5 years, you'll probably flip your experience first and then your education. A lot of folks list courses that they have taken during their degree. For the most part, hiring managers know what courses it takes to complete a degree. If you need that information there to fill a page, which some of us might as new graduates and students, if we need that information to fill the page, then we list it. But that's the first thing that comes off once you have more experience, achievements, or activities. I don't recommend listing courses. Why? Because it looks like you don't have enough to say about yourself and you're filling space. An objective. Some people look and want an objective at the top of the page. It should be targeted at one specific job, one application. Again, it represents your personal brand and what you can do for the company, not what they can do for you. Oh, I'd love to work at a large consumer products company because I will learn how to. No, it's not about you at all. It's about them, what you can do for that company. Objectives are in and out. Sometimes they're favored, sometimes they're not. That's a personal preference. If you have objective on there, you need to do it correctly. Complete sentences. It should be about the company, maybe a summary about how your skill sets are going to benefit the company. So my objective is to get an HR position in an organization that wants a superstar, an extraordinary record of benefits administration, somebody who exceeds performance targets and demonstrates enthusiastic customer relations. Now, those last 3 points are probably pulled directly from the job description that they have posted for hiring. Okay, finally, let's talk about format. Please do not use a boilerplate format that you have pulled off the internet. Now, I will give you a format that you can use. That's okay. Probably should not use it. Probably shouldn't have all my HR majors walking out with the exact same format, but it'll get you started. Again, don't use something from a Word template or something from monsters.com, because they are easily recognizable. Even worse is that people tend to put their strengths and weaknesses in terms of boilerplate language that they have pulled off the internet or from the Rowan Career Center or other places. Equally balanced or equally effective at working on my own as well as within a team is one of them. I see 4, 5, 6 of them every time I do this. You may not realize how readily available or accessible or recognizable these are, but they are truly recognizable. Doesn't mean you can't say something like this, but you really got to change those words around. So there are many acceptable choices of formatting. Again, the nuts and bolts, the material that we've talked about is what needs to go in to this document. There are many different ways people like to format resumes. Somebody's in marketing, maybe a little bit more fancy than somebody that's trying to be an accountant. There are better format. There are bad formats. There are some that are better than others. But generally, if you put the materials that we've talked about into a resume that's chronological, then you're going to be fine. Some of the things that you'll look at are mind your white space. This is not everything that I can possibly put on a page. Make sure that all of your bullet points and the information that you list are in parallel style. If the bullets start with verbs, all the bullets should start with verbs. Now there are also, and I said don't use boilerplate phrases or even templates, but there are great information, and I will put it on Blackboard as well. If you don't see it on Blackboard, just Google it. There are lists and lists of great words, verbs, action items that you can use in your resume, and I strongly suggest that you look over those and choose strong words, very communicative words, magical words that will help improve the look and feel of your resume. So if you go down your resume and you have job experience, and then the next outline is a particular company, and then the next one is the job description, you should follow some sort of outline format. And every job that you have listed, job title, should be in the same, perhaps it's bold and underlined, perhaps it's italic, but make sure that each level of the outline has the same consistent format. So I'm just suggesting that at Career Advice at Monster, there are many acceptable template styles there. You may choose one, but be sure to make it your own. So here's one that I kind of like. Got the name at the top. I think if you put your address and information horizontal, such as that, you will get more space in your resume to write about other things that are more important. Oftentimes people will stack those, especially those individuals who need to fill space on their resume. Lines, I'm kind of in and out with lines. I do like them as separators. I wouldn't get too fancy on the lines. Oftentimes they don't copy extremely well. Font that you use should never be something clownish or super fancy. Stick with the standard ones that are listed in Word, maybe some of the Times New Roman. You're not going to go wrong with a standard font, but you could go wrong with something that's way out there. Here's a format example. As I said, ABC Company, located in Los Angeles, California. You'll need to find out where and how you want to put the dates and the locations. So ABC Company provides voice and data communications. I was an person was an HR generalist there for 2002 to present. Then you've got a paragraph on basically what they did as an HR generalist. And then the key results, the bullets, critical those bullets are. Did these things. And the bullets limited to 3 to 5. I found it fulfilling. I thought it was great that after talking through and developing and using this format that I have suggested to you over many years, I went into this Monster Examples and found the exact same format in the human resources side as I was talking through. So it supports what we're trying to do. Again, company, job, what you did in the job, and the key results, the most important part. Somebody may read your name, okay, they worked for a target company perhaps, HR generalist, good experience, and then they're going here. They may go all the way down to this 89% because they see a number. Reviewers. You should have many people review each resume that you create, that you construct. Maybe you have somebody review it for just grammar and spelling errors. If you have everybody review it for everything, there may be items missed. Somebody review it. Make sure your formatting is good. Your outline structure is good. Somebody tell them, hey, all of my bullets and material need to be parallel. Maybe somebody that knows you extremely well, take a look at it and say, are you sure? Tell me about this. Make sure that your facts are straight and true and honest, and they can be expressed well and sold, but not super exaggerated. And then maybe have somebody take a look at it for knock your socks off-ness. Is this boring? Does this really express somebody's interested in the company? Does it show that I have what it takes to be a good employee at the company? Okay, finally, distribution. This is important. When you do electronic distribution, you should use PDF type file. Don't send a Word document unless they request it. Why? If they bring it up in Word and something is not embedded or their particular formatting is set, you could bring it into Word and it could look all wonky, especially if you haven't embedded your fonts and they don't have the font that you've used. So a lot of things that can go wrong. They could accidentally type in something or change something in the Word format. PDF does not allow for any of that. So create a PDF. It's pretty easy to do in Word, and that's how you should email or distribute the resumes. Electronically, of course. When you print a resume, and this is something that I find that I'm maybe the only one talking about, but with my many years of experience and thousands of hires and resume, you got a stack of 500 resumes. Somebody who puts resume on good resume paper is going to stand out just because they took the time. Never print it on regular Xerox paper that you find at a Xeroxing machine or in a printer. So we're raising our game here. Remember, you need to print it on what's considered and called resume paper. I'm holding up a box of it here, which you cannot see because I'm not turning the camera on. But resume paper is basically at least a 24 weight paper. It's usually made out of cotton or linen. And it's ideal, again, for resumes, cover letter, thank you notes. I will give you resume paper so that you can more easily turn in your resume, your PDF on the due date using the correct paper. Now, the other thing is you can go to Staples or wherever, and this is training for you, and get it printed on resume paper. I think it costs 10 or 15 cents a piece. So you'll need to print it on resume paper. I can't stress the critical nature of this. Second, do not copy ever a resume. Even if you copy it onto resume paper, it just doesn't look right. You need to print it, again, third point, on a laser jet, not a bubble jet, although they're getting better, or anything else. The fuzziness, it just looks crisp and clean on a nice laser jet. Every copy should be on the resume paper, and it should be printed on a laser jet, not copied. Now, Staples or other places can do this. You can do that, but it is something that will set your resume apart in the sea of Xeroxed, hard to read, blurry, not very good print resumes. A recruiter is going to see yours on the right resume paper. It shows respect. The words that you use are going to be crisp and clean and jump off the page. Now, once you print it once, look at it. Make sure that the ink and the jet is strong. It's not giving you a roller rash. It's not light on one side or the other. If it is, if you're at Staples, just tell them to fix it. When you go to Staples, don't just take in the copy of your resume, because all they can do then is copy it, and they'd be glad to do that. Either email to them a copy, PDF format, or better yet, put it on a stick, a thumb drive with PDF, walk it in there, have them print it on the LaserJet, look at it, make sure it's good, and then print as many copies as you might need. Stick with cotton linen, at least 24 pounds. They'll have resume paper there. I've got it here, white or ivory. Don't much care for gray. Parchment, do not like. And nothing too far away from your creams or your basic white. How many resumes should you take into a company that you're interviewing, at which you're interviewing? Well, you take as many as you have resumes. One problem is that somebody is probably going to take your PDF offline, Xerox copy it. It's going to look nasty. And so with all the efforts that you've gone through, they're going to get a bad copy of your resume as they interview you. So you should have a portfolio, a black leather folder with as many resumes as you have interviews. Maybe a couple more just in case. Always offer them. They'll be accepted sometimes, and sometimes they won't. So there we are, HRM 6302. It's kind of hidden there in the background, human resources. And this presentation was on your personal marketing folio. And this has been Dr. Casper. Thank you for your attention.